Spacecraft. What's the first thing that comes in your mind when you hear this word? NASA? ET? Or maybe ever the giant leap for mankind? Nevertheless, it's fair to say that we're all fascinated by these crafts that are sent thousands of miles from the surface of the Earth into the unknown, mysterious universe outside. Hello and welcome back to our channel. Today we are going to talk about SpaceX's Starship program's resting beast, the Super Heavy. So, what is Elon Musk's Starship? Elon Musk is working on a vehicle that could revolutionize space travel. This Starship will be a fully reusable spacecraft that can transport up to 100 people to Mars. Elon Musk's private spaceflight business SpaceX was founded with the idea of making life multi-planetary. Existential risks such as an asteroid hit large enough to wipe civilizations out are part of the reason for this. To protect human civilization in the event of a calamity on one of them, other planets would be colonized and some of the eggs would be placed in other baskets. At an international convention in Mexico in 2016, the entrepreneur explained his reasoning. He predicted that history would split in two directions. One possibly is that we continue to exist on Earth indefinitely with an eventual extinction. He also indicated that the alternative is to grow into a spacefaring civilization and a multi-planet species, which he believes is the best course of action. Musk has often expressed his desire to build cities on Mars, settlements he believes would require a large number of people to become self-sustaining. To make your fantasy a reality, you'll need a capable automobile. The Starship is a rocket and spacecraft combo capable of transporting more than 100 people to Mars at a time. The system is meant to be totally reusable, which means that the main hardware components will not be abandoned in the sea or burned up, as with some other launch systems, but will instead be recovered from orbit. To lower the overall cost of the operation, they can then be refurbished and reflown. Overview of Starship. The spacecraft, dubbed Starship, will be launched atop a super heavy rocket. The integrated system, known as Starship, will tower 120 meters tall. Let's start with the spacecraft. With its nose cone and landing fins, the stainless steel vehicle resembles a rocket ship from the golden age of science fiction. 6 highly efficient Raptor engines developed over a decade by SpaceX are mounted at the back of the 50-meter-long craft. The engine's design reduces the quantity of propellant wasted by breaking down the combustion process into phases. The propellant tanks are located in the vehicle's center. The Raptors get liquid methane and liquid oxygen from these tanks. The fuel is methane and the oxidizer is oxygen, a chemical that causes the fuel to burn. The combination is known as methalox. Refueling the Starship using Martian resources for the return voyage to Earth would provide a level of self-sufficiency, making travels more viable and cost-effective. A massive payload compartment towards the front of the spacecraft, also referred to as the upper stage, will be able to transport significant cargo or people to deep space destinations. Let's go on the rocket now. Super Heavy will be 70 meters long and will be loaded with 3,400 tomes of cryogenic, chilled methalox. It will be propelled by 32 Raptor engines. This number has changed numerous times and should have a maximum thrust of more than 70 meganewtons. It should be able to carry at least 100 tomes of payload to low Earth orbit and maybe as much as 150 tons. This will make Super Heavy more powerful than the massive Saturn V launcher utilized in the 1960s and 1970s for the Apollo moon missions. Launch and refilling. The integrated Starship system will begin to tip over towards the intended orbit as it ascends from the launch pad. Super Heavy rolls over while coming back to Earth after the upper stage separates in space. Super Heavy will deploy steel grid fins, which are fashioned like potato waffles, from the sides of the rocket as it descends. These will assist in guiding the rocket stage back to its launch pad so that it can be relaunched. SpaceX had planned to fire up Super Heavy's Raptor engines in order to guide it down to a precise landing on 6 steel legs. However, SpaceX has revised its mind and now aims to grab the falling booster with an arm on the launch tower. This is the structure that allows engineers and crew personnel to access the spacecraft and rocket while they are on the launch pad. Meanwhile, after separation, the upper stage of the Starship might be placed in parking orbit, allowing it to be refueled with propellant. Musk noted during a conference keynote speech in 2017 that if you just fly to orbit and don't do any recharging, it's quite decent. You'll get 150 tons to low Earth orbit and have no fuel to go anyplace else. You could send up tankers and refill in orbit to get 150 tons of payload all the way to Mars. The spacecraft would dock or marry with another Starship circling the Earth that serves exclusively as a propellant depot to refuel. At the back section of the ship, the two ships would truly mate. Musk stated in 2017 that they would utilize the same mating interface that they used to attach the booster on liftoff. It's fairly simple to transfer propellant. You utilize control thrusters to accelerate in the direction you wish to empty. What will Starship be used for? Musk plans to build roughly 40 rooms in the payload area near the front of the upper stage for long-haul voyages to Mars and back, which might take up to 9 months each way. You could pack 5 or 6 people into each cabin if you really wanted to, but in general, I guess we'd expect 2 or 3 passengers per cabin, approximately 100 people every voyage to Mars, Musk stated. Common areas, storage space, a galley, and a shelter would be located in the payload bay to protect passengers from solar storms, which occur when the sun spews hazardous charged particles into space. NASA's Artemis mission, which intends to create a long-term human presence on the moon, will also use Starship. The heat shield and flaps required for a return trip to Earth would be missing from the version planned for Artemis flights. Instead, the Starship human landing system would linger in space after its initial launch from Earth and be used for multiple trips between lunar orbit and the moon's surface. The cargo or uncrewed variant of the Starship has a payload bay that opens up like a crocodile's mouth. This would make it possible to launch satellites from it. The system might also be used for space tourism and high-speed travel between Earth's many regions. Musk claims that this Starship will someday be able to transport people to places in the greater solar system, including gas giants like Jupiter. However, this is a long-term goal. How does the upper stage land? Engineers have used parachutes or constructed the vehicle in such that it can land on a runway to return other spacecraft to Earth. The upper stage of the Starship, on the other hand, adopts a different strategy. When the ship is ready to land, it enters the atmosphere at a 60-degree angle before horizontally belly-flopping to the Earth. Elon Musk remarked during his Starship update in 2019 that it's totally distinct from anything else. We're executing a controlled fall. You're attempting to create drag rather than lift, which is the polar opposite of what an aircraft does. Starship should be slow enough to complete an engine burn that flips the vehicle into vertical orientation as it reaches the Earth. The Raptors are then used as retro rockets to help guide the vehicle into a safe landing. Musk claims that this general approach may be used to safely land Starship on any planet in the solar system. When will it fly? SpaceX has been testing multiple upper stage designs at its starbase in Boca Chica, Texas during the last 3 years. The business began in 2019 with a 39-meter-tall test piece called Starhopper, which resembled a water tower in appearance, and it flew to 150 meters above ground. Starship's serial number, SN8, the first prototype with a nose cone and flaps, soared to a height of 12.5 kilometers in December 2020. SN8, on the other hand, approached the landing pad too quickly and forcefully, causing it to crumble and explode. 3 more test objects detonated until Starship SN15 successfully landed in May of 2021 with a soft landing. Starship will be launched on Super Heavy for its maiden orbital test flight in 2021, according to SpaceX. Elon Musk has promised Yusaku Maezawa, the Japanese internet retail entrepreneur, a lunar trip in 2023. In a Starship with 8 other people, Mr. Maezawa will travel around the moon. As part of NASA's Artemis 3 mission, which is also scheduled for 2024, Starship will transport personnel from lunar orbit to the moon's surface. Musk also claims that in 2024, one of the vehicles will be launched on an unmanned mission to Mars. Even if the SpaceX founder's timeframes have been optimistic at times, he has a track record of reaching his objectives no matter how lofty. That's it for today's video. What do you think is the future of humans becoming the multi-planetary species? If you got a chance, would you like to go to another planet or moon? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. We will catch you next time on the channel.